On March 30th, 2025, Donald Trump sent shockwaves through the nation with a single statement. In an interview with NBC News, the former president declared his intention to pursue a third term in the White House. "I'm not joking," Trump asserted, sending political analysts and ordinary citizens alike into a frenzy of speculation and debate. This audacious claim, delivered with Trump's characteristic bluntness, immediately ignited a firestorm of controversy. Trump, never one to shy away from bold pronouncements, cited his enduring popularity as justification for his unprecedented ambition. He boasted of having the highest poll numbers of any Republican for the last 100 years. However, this claim was quickly challenged by fact-checkers who pointed to Gallup data showing Trump's peak approval rating at 47%, a far cry from the soaring heights of past presidents like George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush. Despite the factual discrepancies, Trump's statement resonated with his loyal base, many of whom view him as a victim of political machinations. They argue that his first term was unfairly cut short by the pandemic and subsequent economic downturn. The possibility of a third term for them represents a chance to make America great again. Trump's declaration, however, was met with alarm and condemnation from his detractors. Democrats, still reeling from the tumultuous years of his presidency, decried his words as a direct assault on American democracy. They pointed to his history of undermining democratic norms and institutions, arguing that a third term would solidify his grip on power and further erode the country's political fabric. Trump's ambition to secure a third term faces a formidable obstacle: the 22nd Amendment to the United States Constitution. Ratified in 1951, this amendment explicitly limits presidents to 2 terms in office. The amendment was passed in the wake of Franklin D. Roosevelt's unprecedented 4 terms as president, a move that sparked concerns about the potential for executive overreach and the erosion of democratic principles. The 22nd Amendment stands as a cornerstone of American democracy, ensuring a peaceful and orderly transfer of power. It reflects the nation's deep-seated belief in the importance of limited government and the rule of law. Trump's suggestion that he could circumvent this amendment has been met with skepticism and outright condemnation from legal scholars and constitutional experts. Jonathan Turley, a renowned constitutional law professor at George Washington University, stated that Trump's claim is simply not grounded in reality. The 22nd Amendment is clear and unambiguous. There is no legal basis for him to seek a third term. Turley's assessment was echoed by numerous other legal experts who dismissed Trump's statement as political posturing rather than a viable legal strategy. The overwhelming consensus among legal scholars is that overturning or circumventing the 22nd Amendment would require a Herculean effort. Amending the Constitution is a complex and arduous process, requiring the approval of 2/3 of both houses of Congress and 3/4 of the states. Given the current political climate, such a scenario is highly improbable, bordering on impossible. Trump's audacious claim has further deepened the existing political divide in the United States. The nation, already polarized along ideological lines, finds itself grappling with the implications of this unprecedented statement. While Trump's most ardent supporters view his potential third term as a beacon of hope, his detractors see it as a harbinger of Democratic backsliding. Democrats, still smarting from Trump's previous presidency, have reacted with a mixture of outrage and apprehension. They view his statement as a dangerous attempt to subvert the Constitution and undermine the very foundations of American democracy. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi wasted no time in condemning Trump's remarks, calling them a direct attack on our democracy and urging Americans to reject his dangerous rhetoric. On the other side of the aisle, Trump's Republican allies have largely remained silent, seemingly caught off guard by his unexpected declaration. Some, like Senator Lindsey Graham, a staunch Trump loyalist, have cautiously welcomed the idea, arguing that the American people should have the right to elect whomever they want, regardless of term limits. However, many Republicans are wary of publicly endorsing Trump's ambition, fearing that it could alienate moderate voters and damage the party's chances in future elections. The general public, meanwhile, remains sharply divided. Trump's most fervent supporters, drawn to his populist message and promises of restoring American greatness, are energized by the prospect of a third term. They view him as a political outsider, willing to challenge the status quo and fight for their interests. However, many Americans, including independents and moderate Republicans, are deeply troubled by Trump's disregard for democratic norms and his willingness to flout the Constitution. Despite facing seemingly insurmountable legal and political obstacles, Trump has hinted at several potential avenues for achieving his goal of a third term. These range from improbable legal challenges to the 22nd Amendment to more unconventional and even far-fetched scenarios. While legal experts dismiss most of these options as wishful thinking, Trump's history of defying expectations has left many wondering if he might find a way to circumvent the established order. One possibility floated by Trump and his allies is a direct legal challenge to the 22nd Amendment. They argue that the amendment was never intended to permanently bar popular presidents from seeking additional terms, and that it violates the fundamental rights of voters to choose their leaders. However, this argument is widely seen as lacking merit. Legal experts point out that the amendment's language is clear and unambiguous, leaving little room for interpretation. Another more outlandish scenario involves Trump's running mate, Vice President J.D. Vance, winning the 2028 election, and then passing the baton back to Trump, either through resignation or appointment to a vacant vice presidency. This strategy, while not explicitly prohibited by the Constitution, would rely on a series of highly improbable events and likely face intense legal and political challenges. Perhaps the most realistic, though still unlikely, path for Trump involves exerting his influence over the Republican Party to secure the nomination of a loyal successor in 2028, someone who would effectively act as a surrogate for his policies and potentially even consider him for a cabinet position. This scenario would allow Trump to maintain a degree of power and influence without directly challenging the 22nd Amendment. Regardless of the method, Trump's pursuit of a third term is certain to have profound and lasting implications for American politics. It has already reignited debates about the limits of executive power, the sanctity of democratic norms, and the very future of American democracy. As the nation grapples with these weighty questions, one thing is clear: the political landscape of the United States has been irrevocably altered by Trump's audacious claim.